said that today organizations are outsourcing for all kinds of roles, right? Earlier it was
Yes,
technology, more
right.
technology.
It's gone beyond technology. Now it's pretty much all kinds of roles.
And the gig workforce, where do you see the future? Because yes, it's outsourcing, it's a part of outsourcing. So where do you see the future of the workforce in the in this context?
Yeah, before we get down specifically to the gig workforce, I mean, I just want to set the context of how we're seeing it. I think one is millennials or Gen Y, as we sometimes call them. They comprise 34% of India's population, right? And are already about nearing 50% of the workforce, right? Now, by 2025, this is expected to reach 75%. More than the statistics, I think it's a mindset of these millennials that is important, that is key, right? One is increasingly millennials are beginning to become key decision makers in organizations. In fact, the bulk of startups are being founded by people in their 20s and 30s who are pretty much core millennials. Now, the way they're looking at this whole work situation is radically different from, let's say, a generation that was, in positions of power, say, about a decade and a half back to the early 2000s, right? So millennials, I believe, and enough research to prove it, are concerned about work-life balance. There was a survey done by Deloitte a couple of years ago, which said about almost 17% of millennials evaluate career opportunities by good work-life balance, even more than organizations that they can progress in. So that has become a primary driver. And therefore, they're seeking flexibility in their work options, right? So therefore, I would say the gig economy is happening on two ends. One is organizations who are seeing or feeling the pressure of uncertainty, who are trying to pull back on costs and work on what is called an asset-light model. So they want to work with a variable workforce. And two is there are a lot of younger people in the workforce who don't want to stand committed, right? So there was, let's say, when I entered my work career in the early 90s, we all looked for long, secure tenures, right? You look for organizations that will help you grow and where you could spend 5, 10 years or maybe more. Today, the average millennial is possibly looking at, kind of gig roles, or at least looking at jobs where, if he's not satisfied in a year or two, he moves, right? So I think this gig economy is becoming real on both sides of the fence, both aided by employers who are looking at shorter work contracts, a more variable workforce, and by younger employees who are looking at, kind of fulfilling their passions at the same time, kind of making enough to get them going, right? So they're not really looking necessarily at those long 12, 14, 18-hour work hour days dedicated. They're also looking at, kind of, living a life independently by the side. And therefore, the gig economy is becoming real. And I think that is a positive strength. Though,
Mhm.
what I would say is that the gig economy has to be looked at in slightly more longer term aspects. One is how flexible, how companies can change their structures to accommodate gig workers in a more rational manner. And I think, secondly, and more critically, what are the underlying security issues that could take care of gig workers? Right? The obvious advantages of formal employment are, kind of provident fund and medical benefits and kind of long-term accumulations, right? ESOPs and such like. To what extent would gig workers also be able to accrue these benefits? And I think those are things that policymakers need to look at deeply.